So this is a General Motors type automatic transmission used in Rolls-Royce cars from about 1949 through 65 basically. And what we're doing here is overhauling this one. This is a particularly early transmission. This one we're using as an example is a C series transmission, which was used in Mark 6s, R-types and Silver Wraiths. It's much the same all the way through the series. They did do some improvements. They put an extra steel or clutch lining in the rear drum, and they changed the valve bodies along the way, and generally tried to cool them in the Phantom 5s that they used them in. They tended to have ways to keep the oil cooler, but it's a really strong, sturdy transmission. I understand it was used in tanks and all kinds of things when it was first produced. I found transmissions with steel linings, or bronze linings I should say, and the whole gambit. So the transmissions are pretty straightforward, but there are some idiosyncrasies with them which you've got to watch for. If you don't put them together as they were intended, you'll burn it up fairly quick if there's too much movement in there. And so this video is to show how to overhaul it. Well, this one is actually showing you how to put it back together, which is really what you want to know. I haven't produced one taking it apart. Maybe I will, but there doesn't seem to be a great deal of interest anymore, but I might do it for my own satisfaction. Anyway, enjoy the video, and we'll see you again once we start. Today's video is about rebuilding a Hydrmatic transmission out of a middle 50s Silver Wraith. And why we know it's out of a Silver Wraith is because it's got this cast iron tail section which incorporates the pump for the rear shock absorbers and the mount with the anti-roll on the rear part of the transmission. This transmission is a little different to the later ones that were used in the Clouds because it has one less clutch plate in the transmission. That is, the Clouds carry 4 clutches in the front drum and 8 in the rear drum. This transmission only has 7 in the rear drum. So it's a little interesting from that perspective, but that's really the only difference to any of the other Hydromatics that we'll see. The setup is the same, although the bearing is different in this transmission. The bearing for the reverse clutch support is different. So without further ado, what we do is we need to soak these clutches for a short time in oil, or the oil that we're going to use in the transmission, so it's transmission fluid, and we want those to absorb into the material that the clutches are made of. So we'll just pour some fluid over them and get them. This is the transmission fluid we like. This is the one we use, and we'll let them soak for a while as we set up the next shot as to what we're going to do first. So we're putting the drums together for this transmission, and I'm just going to show you the setup for the seals. There's 2 seals on each drum, one on the piston and one on the end cover. You can see there the seal is that way down, but behind the seal there is a backup piece, this copper coloured piece sits behind the seal, and then you have to push it into the piston all the way in. You push it in and push it in, and you keep pushing that in so that you get both of these in. With this setup, you've got the best seal that you can have, and that will eliminate problems as the box beds in. So this is the way to go with the seals with the backup arrangement, and you'll find that's good. So I put the seals on, and I'm going to show you how to put it together, show you how to put the piston in there, and we'll do that in just a second. So now I'm going to show you how to assemble your piston and your end cover. You see you've got your seal in there, you're going to put your piston on there, and then you've got to make sure that the starting edge of the piston seal goes in. And what we do with this is we line up the holes for the pins in the drum. So what we're doing is we make sure that the holes are there, and then carefully we go around with our very smooth screwdriver, no catches or bits to cut that seal, and you just keep pushing it around like so, and you ease it down. Like so. And there you go, there you have it. She's in there. So that's that part of it. In your drum, you've got springs. I put new springs in these drums because they get pretty hot with the old fluids. I'm hoping with these new synthetic fluids there won't be as much heat, better heat transfer through the fluids and back out of the case. So hopefully once these transmissions are built properly, they probably will last a lot longer than they did. Well, they will last longer in time because of course these cars, these Rolls-Royces and Bentleys, were really commercial vehicles when they were first bought. They were bought by companies, they were bought by businesses. Everybody thinks, oh, it's a car. Well, if you go back in time, people didn't have cars when in the 50s. They went to work on a train and they did all those things in the British market. So the car was a luxury, and if some company had it, these cars got tremendous amount of miles on them, or driven, because if you spend that much on a car, you're going to want to be able to use it. It's not going to be parked in a garage like a Austin 7 or something and only brought out on Sundays. These cars were used. These business people had these cars. So take it in mind. Now they're old and they're not going to get driven the way they were when they were new. Anyway, let's just going off the subject a bit. So we're going to build this drum, and I'm going to show you how to put it together with the clutches. So there's 4 clutches in this drum arrangement, and there I'll show you the difference. Have to tap that apart, but I'll show you that. using a brass hammer, not hurting anything. So it's only hanging up on pieces. So you can see the difference. This is the front drum, and the things you're concerned about are the bushings in here, and on this arrangement they've got a single bush, so that's one thing to concern yourself about. Make sure they're in good shape. You can see in this drum there's far fewer clutches and steels, so we did put that together previously. This one does not have the steel pins in the middle of the springs. The rear one does, has more travel. So they have a limit on the amount of travel by using the steel rods to keep the springs there. So there's the differences between the two. That's pushed in. Now this one, so now how you put these together is you soak your clutches in oil and leave them, and then you're going to put them together. So what you're going to do is you take one of your steels, and I tend to put the square to the pin there, and that gives the round ones, you can see there, so the round ones go in the springs. That's two. Yeah, when you're making these videos, you really don't know how much time to spend on different things, because if you make a long drawn out one, people don't watch it. So try and balance enough. It's like keeping the camera running while you're putting it together. Should you just show the first one going in and then say, well, I did all of that, or keep it running? I guess I'll keep going on this one, because certainly when we want to do two, I'll keep it running. So we've got to decide the thing. There was shims in these drums, but the plates were original type plates, and you don't want them to be too tight, but you don't want them to be loose either. So what we'll do is we'll set up with no shims and then see what we've got from the point of view there. So we've got this is out of a Silver Wraith, an early Silver Wraith, and they have a smaller rear or a thinner rear drum than the Silver Cloud type cars. They have a different tail section. They have the pump for the shock absorbers to so we're putting the cover over this
arrangement, and we're going to put the clip in clip should go in fairly easily just by pushing it. Might fight you. You need it to go down. You have to push it. So you saw it kind of jump in there, jump in a bit more. So that gives us plenty of clearance there. Heard it go in, so now we let the clutch pressure off the end. But this is a simple way that you can get this squeezed without expensive equipment. I'm going to move the camera back. Okay, so what we're going to do is we tap. Heard that really go out, which was perfect. You can see that the piston end is there. What we want to know is, oh, you can't really see. I'm going to lower the camera down a little more because this is kind of important to the operation. Put a bit of light back there, hopefully that lights up that portion of it. No, not at all. So, kind of a dark hole there, but what we want is these clutch discs to rotate. I'm trying to... This isn't working. I'm going to have to stop. So what we want to be able to see is these clutches moving, and hopefully you can see them. But that there's some space there, but as you go in more, they get tighter. So what we've got there is about perfect. You don't want too much movement, so the piston's got to move 1/4 of an inch or something, because that's going to add to a harder shift. But at the same time, you've got to have enough movement that the clutches don't heat up and cause unnecessary heat when they're free flowing. One of the other things to test it by is to put the drive gear in, see in there, and you have to line it up. You've got to get it into all those teeth of the clutches. So maybe do it. The friction of the oil on the everything is causing a bit, but we're not. I'm just trying to demonstrate what the thing. So rather than fight that like that, I'm going to try and align everything up. When it's all in and laying down, there we go. There we go. So. We're getting there. There. So. What you've got now is a nice movement of the center gear when it's like that. So this has got the 7 clutches in this, and I did have to put a shim in it, but that just demonstrates what you're aiming to. That you can twist that like so, without a lot of movement. You don't want, as I said, 1/4 inch. There's probably not even an 1/8 in there, but that still allows those wavy plates to turn. Anyway, that gets that drum done. I'm going to show you, we have a special tool for assembly. I'm going to show that now. I don't know, I'm going to have to hold off from the... So you're going to need to make yourself one of these if you do choose to do it. What this does is it keeps that and the keeps it in place for assembly. So it's pretty important to have that. I guess you can see it there. It's just a right angle bit of steel with a 5/16 hole, and you tighten that up, and you'll see in assembly what that does. But that's done the rear drum. That's nice. That's the way you want to have them. You don't want them tight. You don't want them loose. You just want them just right. And that's gone together perfectly. We're very happy with that. So I'm going to work with the front one now. I have to put the front together, and I think it's going to be pretty straightforward. So we'll do that together also. So we've got the front drum organised. We've got the 2 seals, the seal in there with the backups and the seal there. The holes are lined up. So we're ready to put this together. There's no pins in this drum, only the rear, just so you don't get confused. We're going to put this on. So I've got no shims, four plates and 4 clutches. So we'll put this together. Hopefully won't take the work that the other one took, but anyway, we're all good on that one. So let's see if we can get this one organised. I've got a point in running if you don't get to see anything, so I'll bring it over here. So you should be able to see that is down with the clip there, as we put the clip in now. So that's that, and if we take it off, it hasn't come up, but we can tap it with our brass hammer to do that. Heard that. Yeah, that's, you can see that that is in there, and the piston end is good. So what we're aiming for again is these clutches. It's hard to see them. You can see them there, I think. You can see they're moving. You really can't. They're moving. But I guess the best way of demonstrating this is the main shaft, which goes in there. And the main shaft, and these are the bushings for the main shaft. So you know that clutches are moving free enough. You can see that is what we're doing now. Couple in the end that are not playing ball. So we'll try that again. Last one. So there, you can see that moves okay. It's all good. And that one is nice too. And what we will do with this eventually is we will put it on and put the bushings in there and mount that up. But right now, we're good with that part of it. So now we've done the seals in the drums, we've got the clutches set up, and that's all set up. So that's as far as we go there. The next step is to assemble the drums onto the main shaft, and I'll show you that setup next. So this is a view of the front drum on the main shaft on a stand, on the correct stand for the job. You can see there, that's a special tool. Had that for, I'm gonna say at least 40 years, maybe even 50 years. But that's very handy for this job. What we're going to do now is we're going to look in here because at this point, this is what goes in there. So you've got the circlip, you've got a thrust washer, and you've got
a plain washer, as it were. The plain washer has a nib in it. I don't know if you can see it. I guess you can see it right there. It's got that nib. And that nib goes on the shaft in there. I'm going to try and find it, and I'm going to try and show it to you. Because it's important that you know, if you do assemble one, you've got to know where the stuff goes. And that's what this is about. So I found it. You can see it right there. That's a great shot of it. That's very important to know where that is. There it is. So that nib in this washer right there goes there. So the thrust washer goes down, you drop the washer in, and then you put the circlip in, and that's what keeps this front drum on the main shaft. That's very important that you remember that should you get into this. So the other thing that I'm going to point out at this stage is I have 4 brand new rings for the delivery sleeve. And these delivery sleeves, delivery sealing rings are very brittle, and they've been in there a lot of years, and they do tend to wear. You can see there the shininess on them. What I'm looking at doesn't necessarily show what you'll see in the video, but it's incredibly so it's important to change these delivery sleeve rings. Now the delivery sleeve is carrying the 2 drums, and there's a bushing inside here, and you need to look at the bushing and make sure that it's worthy of staying in it. If that's bad, you've got to try and get hold of a delivery sleeve, or at very least a delivery sleeve bushing, which I haven't seen some for a long time, so I don't know what's out there anymore. But what we're going to do now is, for your entertainment, is we're going to change these rings, because that's part of the process. And I've got my trick tripod type thing for my camera, so I can get in good and close. So got to have some old hard fingernails for this. There's 2. Got it off kilter now. Better bring it back in, or bring the other one out, maybe. I don't have the strength I used to have in my fingers. Get it even again. I'm going to have to use my circular pliers for this, and probably break. One more try. So we're in the top ring, so we should be able to do it now.
got it. There we go. And now we've got to put the new ones on. Oh, these are even harder. Put that one in there. Maybe I'll take it from the other side down, see if I can. That one in. Okay, 2 more. And you can also see that these rings have that arrangement there, so they're fully sealing. So those rings are shot. I wouldn't use them again. There's the new ones fitted. So we're going to put the bushings, then we'll put the delivery sleeve in. You'll see how that works. Just hold on for a little while. So here we are looking down on the front drum with the arrangement there. We can see that flat there on our main shaft. I'm going to put this thrust washer down. Can still see it. Then we're going to put the washer down, and that red dot there. We're going to push it around, make it go down. There, we got that down in there. We'll see. We are really right. We take our special pliers, nice and thin, spread that. You won't do this job without the right pliers. And then watch the clip. You see the clip went in, so that's in there now. You can see that nothing's turning, that washer's moving in that little indent for it. So we're all good. You can't quite see the clip. You can see the clips in now, I believe. Pretty good. Anyway, that's a pretty good view. So the next thing we're going to put on is our delivery sleeve, and I always put a bit of lubricant on the bushings, obviously, because it will take a little while for the oil to get around. So you want to have some lubricant on your rubbing surfaces, as it were. Now you can see there that clip is fairly big on there. So thanks to time and everything else, I happen to have the correct pliers for the job. You can see what it says on there, so you Rolls-Royce people can see that they were made in Crewe. Those clips are big, aren't they? See, we've got that clip in there. Just going to give that a touch. Just making sure that it's where it should be. Not foolproof, it just came out again. You can see that. Yeah. They are extra springy, new ones. I have to lift that up. Yeah, a little bit of a fiddle. We'll pull that out a good bit so that we can get that ring tight in there. Now we'll try it. Go down to that. I think it let go of the. Nope, still not. Boy. It shows you some of the pitfalls. So we got that one in. It was a bit of a fight, so I had to squeeze it and keep it squeezed until it was down. But we're doing this one now, which should be okay. So they're in. If you don't have the tool and you've got to push them, good luck with your fingers. But anyway, they're in. So the next trick is to put the this drum on, the large drum, and that'll be the next job. So we're carrying on with the putting the drums onto the delivery sleeve, and you can see the two rings here for the rear drum, and then we've got two more grooves. This groove here is to support the ring that works to hold the rear drum in the right position on the delivery sleeve. It's pretty simple, but you can see that this washer here
has a small arrangement to stop it turning, and that goes into one of the grooves. So what we have to do before we put the rear drum on is we have to so we have to get the spring clip into the first groove there, and we have to put the washer on. That's very important. This little washer is really to keep everything in the right spot. The spring clip obviously supports it because it is strong, so the washer just fills in the gap. So now we've got to bring in the rear drum, and I'm kind of doing this a bit funny because I normally drop it down, but it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to show what I'd like to show on the video. So I'm putting a bit of assembly lube here so that we don't lose one of these rings, which is also a good idea. And basically what we're doing is we're bringing the rear drum in, and remember the little bracket I made to get the so now you can see, hopefully you can see, it's a bit of a dark area. Well, it's important to point it out. You can see there we've got that ring and the other ring, and it's going together kind of good. And I'm going to try and keep you viewing that. But with my trusty tool, I'm going to push the ring in, and it only does one ring, and it clearly isn't doing that ring because it's not going together. So I'm going to take that off a bit. Okay, so I've got that ring now. So I should be able to push this down, and I've now hit the second ring. Saw that, which looked kind of good. So now I'm going to fiddle till I get this second ring in place. Still got the ring. I have to lift it up to get it to go down. And there we go. We've got that in. You can imagine trying to do it without the tool, which I've done many times, but trying to do it without the tool and showing you is a bit above my ability, so that really demonstrated the issues. I have put my 2 fingers in there and pushed 1 ring at a time with the thing upright, but you do need the ability to either put it in a vise or have this arrangement to keep it there. And you can see that the distance here is exactly right to the distance all the way through. You can see that by the fact that the groove for the clip is good. Yeah, there's a good shot. That give you, no, that doesn't give you the view. One more to try. You can see there that the groove for the clip is right in the right spot now, so that's good. So I've just got to put the clip on that holds those 2 together, and all will be well. When these boxes get really hot, these clips suffer badly. So if you take a box apart that's been heated up very badly, you'll be changing these clips. And I believe these clips were at one time about $70 each at one point. So you can buy them cheaper from the transmission supply places. But as a Rolls-Royce part, they were terribly expensive. Anyway, that's a good shot of the arrangement. You can see the bracket that holds it all together, and you still can't take that bracket off until we get it into the case, because if that falls apart, the drum falls down and then you're screwed, because you can't deal with it. So you must have that bracket too. There's another good tip. So we're all good there. I'll tip it up the other way just to give you the view. You can see everything in there. You can see the clutches down there. Everything where it needs to be. You can see that the gear is in the middle and it's all turning. So we've got ourselves our drums. Now we've got to discuss the bands. These are the bands, and this is the end that goes inside and goes on the pin, the adjusting pin inside there. So this is the front band. This is the rear band. This goes on this drum at this point, and this is the point at which it goes to the pin that adjusts. In here we have a point at which there's a spring to push it apart. They feel that it's necessary to make sure it comes off the drum when it's released. So that's worth remembering. So now what we have to do is put the 2 bands on the drum arrangement. We got one there, and we got one here. We have to get both of them in to that box there. What we're going to do is get this close to us. We're going to put these 2 like this. We're going to plop that inside this box and put it on the saddle. Now, I don't know how much of this I'm going to be able to show, but I really like to show because it's a real fiddle and everything has to be at the right spot at the right time. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the tripod. I hope to put the camera right on the case. I don't think that's the best. I think that shot there is probably pretty good. So bear with me, and I'm going to put the delivery sleeve on this point here. You can see there. I have to get the delivery sleeve in there, which I'll show you after I get on. That gives you a front view of it. But you have to go in from the top from this point to get everything on. So I'll do this now. Oops, that's no good. I've got to make sure everything is the way we want it. Okay, so I've got the piece that goes on the pin. I've got that there. I'm going to put it into the case a bit. Then I've got to get the band ahead and put that down in there. So now what I've got is the two bands that have to be positioned before I go any further putting it in. The delivery sleeve is upside down, so I have to rotate it, and that's what I'm going to try and do now. So I'm rotating the drums. So I have the single pin, which is part of the saddle, and I think I'll grab the saddle for you just to keep you aware. So here we have the saddle. You can see the arrangement, but there's this pin I wanted you to see, which is in the saddle. And then you've got to locate that in there. And that can be a little more difficult than it would first appear. But I also have to get the bands onto the pin. You see the pin there for the rear one? You can't see the front one. And this we can get down there. You can see that down there. So we've got to move that around and down. So I'm going to try that again. Maybe give you a bit high shot and then look down. So I've got to move the band, the front band around.
Okay, so that was the front one in there. The front onto the pin, more or less. So now we move the back one. There's the back one in there. I'm not happy about the front one quite yet because I want it on the pin before I put the saddle on. You see? Okay, it's pretty good. Still movable, but I think we'll try and get it a little bit down. There, that's pretty good. Now you can see the pin for the saddle, and that's what we have to line up now. So we've got both bands organised. And the pin for the saddle is the next thing. Oops, you can't see much. So what I've got there, you can see that, I think. See, oh boy, did I ever luck out for that? Man, oh man. I must be getting old because that hardly ever happens. Okay, I'm going to grab a socket and just pull those in a bit. I didn't discuss, well, maybe I better discuss this. So you've got this lock tab on the saddle. Generally speaking, these are in a terrible state, and it'll be one of the things you need to get if yours is in a state. So that's that. So I'm going to wind that in, and we'll do that, and we'll move on to the next once I get it in. Just keep me away from the view. And pull that in. So you see what I'm working on. Okay. So that's just nipped up for now. We will tighten that up shortly, but there's a few gears to put on, and we generally have to check the setup for the rear thrust washer to see that there's a thickness you can change at that point. So we don't make it fully installed until we get the back half done. So that's why we just give it a pull in. But that's brilliant. That went in really quite easily. So must be because you're watching. Okay.
So moving right along, we're going to put the end of our main shaft, which is the output shaft, and in this we have to put a thrust bearing. You can see the area there. And this is the adjustable washer that I spoke about previously. These come in many different thicknesses, and what they're doing is giving a clearance to this main shaft here, which is the this is the main shaft going to the front to the torus. So we put that there, and this is the washer that gives that the clearance that it needs to function. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put a bit of assembly lube there and stick that in there, because that will keep that from falling out, because that's the last thing you need, is putting it all together and finding you have no clearance, and all it was the fact that you lost control of the washer. I'll put a bit of assembly lube on there, put the washer in there, you can see it right there. So that will stay in there now without any problem. So you can see the 1/2-inch nut that's holding the bracket that holds the center of the rear drum in. I showed you that, which goes into the clutches. I'm just taking this bolt out a bit long. You don't want any silence, you've got to be talking all the time. Otherwise you think I've gone away. No fear of that. So push that shaft in, and it comes out, as I said, at the torus here. And we have a special tool. What it does is it keeps that in, and the reason we want to keep that in is we don't want the center of that drive, that rear drum, to come this way. We want to keep it all in there for the assembly. So that tool is, you can get away with it, but if you have to take it off, if you have to take this rear part of the shaft off to change this washer, that might come out as well, and that would be a real pain in the ass. So what you're aiming to do, so now I'm putting the rear shaft in, because I got that tied up, and I have to put that in there. I've got my my thrust washer there, and I've got to line up the gears. Not a very good shot of that. Well, let's try that there. So I'll give you a shot of that. You can see that's gone in there. It's a little bit crooked, but that's all the gears inside the drum, and in there you have to fiddle to get that. The other thing that's happening here, which doesn't happen on a Silver Cloud, is this is a support for the rear pump, and that all that's there for is so the rear pump has something to lean against. They did away with it because it just wasn't necessary, but it was one of those things that Rolls-Royce decided they wanted to have in the transmissions for their cars. So that gives you a look back from the past there. But you can see it's a bit of a nuisance because it's making my piece here a bit tight to get in. See, I've got it past there. Do you see it? Yeah, I guess you saw it.
Okay, so everything's hooked up. We've got a ring there, so it still has to go further forwards than the ring only stops it coming out, so we had to push it in a bit. So now we've got 6 bolts. I want to use the correct bolts, and we're going to put spring washers on them. As we all know, spring washers don't last. Once they get crushed, it's time for them to be changed as a matter of course. Now, I don't do this up particularly tight, just do it so that it doesn't lose its position on the shaft, but I'm not going to do it up dead tight until we get the whole of this back end done. So it's just an assembly at the moment. We're not doing that tight, the same as the things there, because we could have to take it out again if we need to change that thrust washer. There is no clearance for our shaft that goes to the front. That's what we're going to do. And just put enough pressure to keep the thing in. Don't need to be any tighter than that at this stage of the game. Oops. Okay, so we're all good. We've got movement. I don't know if we've got too much movement, but that's all good. So the next thing we're going to put on is we're going to put the drive for the rear pump and the so we've got the rear pump drive and the rear planetary, which is what is used for reverse. I couldn't think of the wording there. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this on. So you find the pins first and then you do that. So you can see that there. There's your rear planetary, or it's your reverse planetary. So now we're going to do the reverse hub. The reverse hub is made up of a cone clutch, and it's got 6 springs to keep to return it back into the housing. And you see it just does that. It comes out, holds the planetary gears, and that's what causes the reverse. So that's pretty easy, but we've got to put seals on it. We've got to put a seal in the groove, and then we've got another groove here to put a seal in, right there, and that's these 2 seals, small and big. So we're going to do those. Now there's no backup with these, they're just the seal goes in, and you have to stretch the seal over the housing, which is pretty bit of a tough pull, but it's doable. But when you go down there, you've got to make sure that the lip goes over that groove there, so you've kind of got to hold it off a bit to get it started, so that the heavier piece on the edge doesn't fall in the lip. So we take our trusty screwdriver, we just block it off for that little bit. Then we'll pull it back up in a second or two. I'll just show you again. If you get the lip into that groove, it's really a bit of a difficulty getting it out. So kind of put it in. And then bring it back, and eventually turn it. See, like that. Well, you can't see it. See, like that. So now you can see that it's in that groove, and can move it around like so. There. Well, that's that one. On the clutch, the cone clutch, you put it in like so. So now you've got to get that fine piece in there. So I'll come back here. So what we're going to do now is we've got to get this seal in over this edge. So what we do is we put some transmission fluid on the seal, get ourselves a special tool, a feeler gauge tool, and put that down in the slot, and you start the seal going round. Well, you don't want to cut any seal, so you've got to have a feel for it. You put it in. So, lack of words, but that's it. Got it in. So now we've got to put the retaining ring and the spring clip on it, which is there. And it's going to take a little bit of effort. I think I'm going to set the shot up. So we got the tail section of the gearbox, or the reverse cone clutch, here in the arbor press, and I'm
I'm going to push the bearing into the tail section, and then after that I'm going to press the springs to clip the cone clutch in. You're going to get a fairly good close-up of the view of the pushing in of the bearing, but I can't hold it out, so I'm going to set it up so you can see the action. I'm dropping the bearing into the tail section of the gearbox. I hope I got it in there nice and square so that my immediate push down will be very straightforward. That's good. Now I have to put the clip in, which I've got here. So we're going to put the clip in. To use something to do that. So I've got a couple of screwdrivers. I'm pushing around. Have to pull this part in. Oops, hit the camera. Still can see. Okay, so there's the clip in there. So that does that. So we've just got to use the other tool to do the rest of it. So we'll put the springs into the clutch, the cone clutch, or the piston I should say. I call it a cone clutch. It's the piston that pushes into the clutch. Had to come to my son's shop for this. I don't have an arbor press in my... I dropped the spring there, caused a bit of panic. Thought it had disappeared. So we put the ring on, the securing ring, and then we got the clip. It's a bit of a fiddle, but we'll take the this arrangement. This is for a handheld tool, part of it, but I don't know where that happened. Anyway, so now we'll... Very good. All good except there. I'll have to move it a little bit. Too much. Try that.
There we go. Okay. So we got the ring in there, a bit of a fight. I've got nobody to help me keep the press down, so a bit of luck, and we managed to get it there. So we've got our bearing in, we've got the clip for the bearing in, and we've got our springs compressed. So that's a good arrangement. Everything's good. Very happy about that. Good. So we'll return to the other shop and get this on. So we've got our transmission set up. We're going to put on the rear housing now and the reverse cone clutch in the parking pull gear. So the first thing to do is to get the back of the transmission off the bench, because the housing we're putting on, as I've said many times on this series, we've got to remember this is a silver wraith, not a silver cloud. So probably you don't have to do that with the silver cloud, but for this, to put the housing in, you've got to be straight and be able to wiggle it in. So that being said, so we've got our planetary here in, ready to go. You can see that well enough. And the next thing to go in is the wipe that off, put that back in. And that doesn't have any locking device, so I have to be careful. The cloud ones have a locking device, this one does not. I've got to keep my fingers on it. So I put some, there's a bushing inside this. I'll give you a quick peek of what we're putting on. So here's the thing. The parking pull arrangement is there. We've got a thrust washer in there that I've stuck in with transmission fluid, and have this spring arrangement inside here. You can see that, and that's the thing that you've got to keep up. And what that does is this spring here, it's made up of two pieces. It's made up of a push there, and then there's a spring underneath it, which pushes the cone out of the clutch there. So when we put this on, we have to watch that stays in the teeth. We have to put it in. You can't see a great deal. Let me get the camera a bit further forwards. So we've got a couple of things to look at. We've got this arrangement here of the locking. There's a keyway goes in here, which needs to be in when you put it in. I'll just give you a good look at that. So that keyway goes in the slot in the back of the housing there, the box itself. Now we have to get the bushing inside here lined up. And we're going to push it all in. So we're going to go like that. We lifted it up a bit. Oops, the gear came out. That's a real drag. So we're going to have to maybe stick that in with a bit of oil. You can see that there. That's a good shot of what it does. Give it one more go. It's pretty flimsy. It doesn't hang on particularly well. As I say, in the cloud ones, they put a little lock on it so you can keep it tied up. I'm just going to put a bit of a lubricant on it to try and stick. So we're going to give that another try. I worked some magic there, I hope. We'll see. I think it's fallen out already. Okay, it's stuck on there. Oh boy. This is really a nuisance. Okay, I can see both the legs. I don't want to jig it too much. Try to lift it up a bit. Come on. Should go in. Really want that in so tight, but oh, I see. There she goes. We got both our legs there and that one there, so we know we're good with the spring. Now I have to get this out just a little bit, which is a nuisance, but it's got to come out a little bit. So I've got to get my keyway in. One more. Come on, easy. Not going to get that in. Very gentle. There we go, there's our keyway going in. Oops, upside down. And that what that does is stops it turning. So the keyway's in, so we gently push it all in. That one leg has moved now, I think. Yeah, we're going to have to try and get that up without taking it all off again. God, that's a pain. That is a pain. Flip. There it is. Oops. There it is. There. That's lucky. There she be. There she be, Bert. Kurt. So the rest of the arrangement is a little easier, I think. It's the spring that's keeping it out now. So we now have to put in our setup for the bearing in the housing. So we put that spacer on there, you saw that? That spacer keeps the bearing away. We've got to put our gasket on. It takes a gasket at this point, and if you don't have a good gasket, you're going to have a leak when the car goes into reverse. So you make sure you're happy with your gasket sealant. Too much going inside. Not a problem. So I'm just putting the gasket goo on lightly. Didn't really need to keep that. But we'll see what happens now. So now we put on our housing, but in there is a high spot on the shaft. The bearing is a press fit, so I have to get a special tool to tap that over. So I'm just going to stop here